That's my pill alarm. It's time for me to take my medication. The legend continues. Some of my community tab wanted to see a little behind the scenes of my latest video, so I thought I would talk about the sculpt, take you around a little bit, give you a little peek up the skirt, show you how I do things. Alright, first up we got these lights. I got these off Amazon. They were like $170. They're remote controlled and change colors and brightness. I thought they fit perfect because, actually, spoilers, if you haven't watched the video, go check it out. You can click on this link and it won't close out the window. You can pause this, watch it, and then just come right back. So anyway, the transition at the end of the video where the lights turn all red, it worked perfect for that. Next up, we have these doors. I based these off of the ones I saw in the first trailer for Killing Floor 3, when you see the flesh pound. So these are made of blue insulation foam board, which you can get at any hardware store. It's usually blue or pink. I glued a bunch of these together to make them a little thicker, then cut the pattern out with a hot wire foam cutter, basically this thing here. I did the same thing with the panels that are on the front. Then I painted the whole thing silver and did some quick detail with my airbrush, and then just dry brushed some highlights in there. I didn't go too crazy on these because I knew they'd just be in the background and kind of blur it out. And then once I put some lights on them, I think it sold the illusion of some big industrial doors. And for those lights, I just made some quick snoots out of construction paper and gelled them blue, and then changed them to red for the end transition. And these little stands I made out of PVC pipe, again from the hardware store. The one thing I used that I don't have here anymore is a pair of red strobe lights. And I just put those up on stands and only used them again for the end shots. I returned them because they were just really cheaply made and not very bright, so yeah, they went back. And that's about all there is to the background. Now onto the sculpt. So to start, this guy is sculpted 1:1 life-size scale. Tripwire gave me the official measurements. The Scrake is like 6'10" and 310 pounds, so the bust is like 19-20 inches tall or something like that. I sculpted him as close to life size as I could. Now to start with, I blocked the whole thing out in foam, which was the same kind of foam that I used for the walls. So I glued a bunch of these together and basically just made a big block of it, and then I roughed in the basic anatomy with the hot wire cutter again. And I have two different kinds of these cutters. This one allows me to bend the wire in custom shapes and kind of scoop out areas. It's a pain to use though. It works, but it's not great, and it's kind of expensive for what it is. You gotta buy this transformer thing to use with it separately too. So I started the actual sculpt in like December, and it sucked because my studio gets wicked cold in the winter, so I was fighting with the clay to get it all bulked out and roughed in. You have to heat this clay up and keep it warm in order to work, so it was just so cold that every time I'd take a hunk out, it would kind of freeze in my hands and I'd have to smush it on real quick. But I wanted to use the hard grade because of the inorganic parts, and it's just easier to keep clean edges and stuff with this. As far as the actual sculpting, you can pretty much see all of that in the video. I showed all the tools I used. Most of them I made myself, just a combination of loops, rakes, and spatulas. But if you guys want to see any of those more in depth, just, I don't know, just let me know in the comments or whatever. Most of the texturing was done with a wire pet brush, and I have a similar texturing tool, another one that I made, just kind of got some wire prongs on it. And that does a lot of the like wrinkles and stuff. And then there was some small loops to help punch up the detail and make all the pores and stuff. I also use these little Colgate toothbrushes. These things work great on Chavant especially. They just really help to clean everything up and blend it all together. Just be sure that before you use these, you pop the little mint out from the middle. Then these little electrode plugs, I had a couple of wood dowels and I just turned two different sizes of these on the lathe, and put details on them with some small pieces of styrene plastic. Then those were molded to make copies, and just painted the same color as the clay, and then plugged them in and then sculpted the little mounds around them. For these back spinal column pieces, I basically just made one out of styrene, and then again molded these and cast a bunch of them up and painted them the same color as the clay. You can see most of that in the video. And it's the same thing with this little insert piece on the back. The main part of it is made of clay, but this part itself is made of styrene. I freaking love styrene. If you don't know what that is, you could basically find it at any hobby shop. It's just a type of plastic that you can cut and shape. You can be really precise when working with it. There's some styrene bonding glue that you can get. You just brush it on and it instantly welds the pieces together. So it's really easy to just kind of fabricate all kinds of crazy stuff out of it. Now for the visor, I had no idea how I was going to do this at first glance, but after thinking about it for a while, I decided to make it out of foam. I got a foam table cutter that works really awesome from that same company, that Proxxon company. And it makes really precise cuts, and it's a useful little tool to have for sure. So I made a negative and a positive template out of cardboard, and then just traced that with the wire cutter. And then I cut out a piece of styrene for the backing and just hot glued that into place. For these sterno muscles here, I sculpted the basic shape and then cleaned them all up. And to get the little channels in there, I took some styrene rods and just pounded them into place. That was a lot easier than trying to carve them out, since I could line them up to begin with, and it just made it a lot easier to space them out evenly, and I was able to do that all in one shot. Now the wires, I was gonna try to find wires this size, but I couldn't find any that I could kind of shape perfectly into place. All the housings on them they didn't look clean like this, so I decided to just extrude a bunch of clay, and that worked out great. For the harnesses, I made those out of styrene as well. It's just sheet styrene that I cut, glued them together, and then plugged those into the sculpt. Last but not least, the mask. And this thing was ridiculously tough to make. I had to cut and recut parts a bunch of times just to get the measurements right. And it's all made from sheet styrene, except for the eyes, which are sculpted in Chavant. But one night at like 3 a.m. I was working on this, and it just wasn't fitting right, so I tried heating it up to bend it into place a little more, and some of the pieces wound up getting all wavy and bubbling up, so those had to be replaced, and almost had a Scrake-shaped hole in my wall, but just went to bed angry and fixed it in the morning. The toughest part wasn't so much like making the pieces, it was just getting it to fit on the sculpt. It's still not even a perfect fit, but it works. And then every time I put this on and take it off, I have to fix parts of the sculpt, mainly these little mounts. That's what the mask should actually clip to if it were real, but this is all just clay, obviously, so the sharp edges get dented easily. So if you haven't seen the video, go check it out. It was a super cool experience working with Tripwire, a bunch of really cool dudes over there. So big shout out to them, Trent, Mike, Brian. Thanks for having me on the project. They showed me a bunch of early gameplay footage of Killing Floor 3, and it's looking really good. I'm actually really excited for it. In fact, I was even thinking maybe when it releases, doing a Let's Play style video, maybe show off some gameplay, kill a few Scrakes. Yeah, no, yeah. If it's something you guys might want to see, let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one.